Terrorclaw the Ogre is one of the most important bosses to be able to kill early on, as the reward for killing him is an ultimate that is probably the best one in the game, especially for PvP. So this video is going to be a complete comprehensive guide about how to solo Terrorclaw the Ogre, even at lower gear score. First we'll look at his location, where to find him, then move on to builds that you can use to beat him, then going into strategies and his mechanics, how to play around his moves, and lastly looking at the rewards that he gives. Terrorclaw the Ogre is found within the frozen cave to the very south of the Hollowed Mountains. Now, just a quick note on his location: because he is in a cave, you can fight him either during daytime or nighttime. There will be shade either way. So looking at our build, starting with the weapon, we're going to be going with slashers, as the stealth is really OP for this fight, as I'll get into later. So having a pair of iron slashers plus is a necessity for fighting the boss with this strategy. If you want to speed things up, you can also bring a crossbow. Basically, this just gives us another ranged spell to use to speed things up, as we'll mainly be fighting him from range. So if you only use slashers, you won't have quite as much damage as if you also bring a crossbow along. For our abilities, starting with our space ability, you actually don't really use your space all that much in this fight except to dodge one specific move, and you typically aren't going to get the auto attack bonus after the space, so it doesn't really matter what you take. I used the blood space for this fight, but that's just because it's the only one that I had. For your two abilities, you basically just want the highest range DPS abilities that you can afford to take. So obviously Chaos Volley is the number one, it's just the by far highest damage ability in the game, so take Chaos Volley every time. And then for your other ability, really any other range DPS ability is going to be fine. I would suggest just whatever your personal preference is. I used Shadow Bolt for this fight. You can also use things like Pestilence or Ice Bats, even Sanguine Coil, sort of really any other range DPS ability will work. For your ultimate, usually I do this boss right after I get to Iron Tier, so you really only have Merciless Charge available, and anyways, we're not really going to be using an ult for this fight. If you have a different ult besides Merciless Charge, you can put it on and it should help a little bit. Otherwise, no problem, you don't even need an ultimate to do this fight. Terrorclaw the Ogre starts out with 6 abilities when you first fight him. So first off, we have an ability where he summons a bunch of ice pillars, which are important for basically the rest of the fight. So he'll slam the ground a bunch of times, throwing ice pillars from the ceiling that will slam down in different directions in the arena. These ice pillars are sort of like other terrain. You can damage them and kill them, although you typically want to leave them alive. They'll block attacks, and he'll use them for some of his other attacks. This ability really isn't too hard to dodge, it's more to set up his later things, so just try to do as much damage to him as possible while he's slamming the ground, making pillars all over the place. Next, he has 3 abilities that we're going to deal with all in the same way. So first we have this little short charge bite ability where he charges forward a short distance and tries to bite you. He will roar before the charge to let you know what happens, and this will destroy any ice pillars. He'll try to bite the ice pillars if that's in his path instead of you. Next, he has this sort of basic 3-hit swing melee attack. This one is a lot shorter than it looks. Often it looks like you're gonna get hit by it. Trust me, it's actually a really short range move, so honestly this one's not a problem at all. Next, he has this slam where he'll charge up and slam in front of him, which will shoot out 3 ice paths in front of him in a sort of cone, which will erupt after a short delay, dealing a bunch of damage. When these ice paths erupt, again, if they're underneath pillars, they will destroy the pillars. For all 3 of these moves, his short charge bite move, his 3-hit swing melee, and the ice path slam, you don't have to do anything to dodge these moves. If he casts them, all you have to do is walk away from the abilities or away from him, and they will not connect with you. So basically, these are free moves for you, allow you to create distance between them, do damage to him, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes you don't want to cast as you're running away, as that could get you caught in the abilities, but just walk a little bit, get out of the range of them, and then cast some abilities on him to do some damage. Next, he has one quick little ability where he yells in a sort of circle around him. It will incap players. For the way that we're taking this fight, which is very range based, he practically never uses this move, as you shouldn't be standing beside him, so we really don't have to worry about this too much. Lastly, for his basic moves, he has an ability where he picks up an ice shard and throws it at an enemy. Just as a note, you cannot stand behind other pillars to block this move as it pierces the other pillars, and you can normally block it with something like a shield ability. However, if it pierces a pillar first, it will also pierce their shield, so if you're going to run a shield for this, be very careful, do not stand behind any pillars when he's using this move. So this move has like sort of three parts to it. First, he runs to a pillar and picks it up. Then second, he turns towards his target. And then third, he actually throws it. For this move, it's really important that you learn to dodge it without using any defensive abilities like a space or a shield. It's actually really easy to dodge it once you get the hang of it. So basically, after he picks the pillar up and turns to his target, he'll start his throwing animation, and he will throw in the direction of the enemy, leading the enemy towards they're going. So if you keep running in the same direction, you'll get hit. However, if you move directions and go backwards from where you were just moving, as soon as you see his arm start to raise up, he'll throw it where you were previously going, and it's really easy to dodge it. Now, just one note, the farther you are away from him, obviously the easier it is to dodge this. So if you're right in front of him as he's going to throw it at you, you might want to be safe and just use a space or something to dodge it instead. But usually all you have to do is wait for him to pick it up, turn at you, and then as soon as you see that arm lift up, turn around and go the opposite direction. Just note that the way that lets you dodge this the best or the easiest is to walk perpendicular to the throwing angle of the ice shard. So if he's throwing it straight at you, walk to your right or to your left. So just to recap for this first part of the fight, all of these moves are easily dodged just purely based on your movement of your character. You do not need to ever use your space. You do not need any defensive abilities. If you learn how to move well against this, you will never need to use your space and you'll never take any damage. At around 70% HP, Terrorclaw adds a new move which is a pretty problematic one. So first he'll yell and have this like blue circular glow around him. Then his whole body will glow like this purpley blue color, and he'll start waving his hands forward, sending waves of ice towards an enemy. These waves of ice will freeze you and do a buttload of damage, and since they come in waves, if you get hit by the first one, you're going to get hit by the second one, and this move can just straight up one-shot you if you make a mistake and get hit by it. When it comes to countering this move, you have a couple options. So first off, this move does not break pillars, or at least it's not supposed to. I've seen it break pillars before, I'm not really sure what triggers it, but usually it will not break pillars. So if you put a pillar between you and him when he's using that move, it shouldn't hit you. To be safe, I'd recommend standing at least 2 pillars deep, because if it breaks the first one, it shouldn't break the second one. Second, you can use your space for this spell. However, just be careful if you're too far away from him. It has a sort of expanding AoE similar to the ice path as it goes out. So if you're too far away from him, it will actually still connect with you even after your space, as the AoE gets really large at the end. However, all that being said, lastly, the way that we're going to deal with it is to be using the slasher's stealth ability. So after he yells, he has a short delay before he actually starts casting that ability. If you go into stealth with your slashers fast enough, he will just not cast the ability because he doesn't have a target to cast it on. So if you see him do that yell and start glowing behind him, immediately go into your stealth and he will just wait for a while looking for a target, and if you just hold in your stealth, then by the time your stealth ends, he'll be done that move and move on to the next one. This is something that you really want to get practice on, as when he adds his next move, as we'll get into a second, you cannot use your space on this move or you risk dying to the next move that he adds in. So it's really important to practice and get good at basically canceling this move whenever it comes up by going stealth. At around 30 to 40% HP, Terrorclaw the Ogre will add his last move in. With this move, he jumps on top of an enemy, and when he lands, frost spikes will radiate out from him in waves, freezing and doing a buttload of damage to any enemies they come in contact with. So this move is basically the move that we're saving our one defensive, our space for, as there's really no other way to dodge this. So as long as you're not wasting your space on any other moves, it's pretty simple. You just space away from it whenever he jumps on you. For rewards, Terrorclaw the Ogre gives access to the Arctic Leap ultimate ability, which lets you leap into the air and strike down at a target location, dealing 225% magic damage. A Nova of Frost erupts from the impact location, freezing any enemies hit for up to 6 seconds, or for enemy vampires, 3 seconds. This ult is pretty much the meta for PvP outside of Fallen Angel, so getting it early is a massive importance if you're going to be PvPing in the early mid game, or to be honest, at all. Okay, so that's basically everything you need to know about Terrorclaw the Ogre and how to beat him. If you need some extra help, the rest of this video again will be a full unedited VOD of my fight that I did with him, where I'll be giving some commentary as I fight him to sort of help you with what to think about and what to look for. So as this fight gets started here, you can see it's just super basic to start out when he doesn't use any of his threatening moves. You can literally just walk around, wait for him to use a move, sidestep it, and then throw some spells back at him. You can see even with his melee attacks there, I'm like right beside him, still don't get hit by it, so it's a super easy boss fight just to start out. Once he summons some pillars down, one thing you can think about is when he does like the Waves of Frost move later, you can block him with pillars, so it can be beneficial to leave pillars up and like move yourself in a way where he's not going to kill pillars with his moves. However, I kind of like them down just so they don't block my attacks, because dealing with it with the stealth is easy enough anyways. You can see he turns around and he's going to go for a pillar throw. So just walk in one direction. It's really easy when it's that far away. You have a lot of forgiveness on your timing. Yeah, so you typically want to cancel a cast like that if you get too close to him while he's picking up a pillar. You can see I cast ability and then he picked a pillar right after that, so I got hit by it. I did make a mistake. You couldn't dodge it from that distance, no problem. I just made the mistake and got hit by it. And you can see I used my space on the Waves of Frost after that, which wasn't necessary because I could have gone stealth, but it was just easier at that point. Early on like this, when he starts doing the Waves of Frost, you don't really need to always do the slasher stealth. You can do the space like I did here, as it's sometimes easier and just quicker, because I know he's not going to jump on me yet. You can see even at a relatively short distance there, you can still dodge that pillar, no problem. If you want to, if you're ever in doubt to, you can just space or like close pillar throws like that, and then just go stealth afterwards to buy time for your space to come back up. There, I make a mistake. See, that's a perfect example. I make a mistake by spacing the pillars, and then I just put stealth after to make up for it, which gives time for my space to be back up for that Waves of Frost. Not entirely sure why I went stealth there, but... Alright, you start jumping, so now I have to make sure I'm not using my space on anything but that. You can see I preemptively go stealth here just in case he does the Waves of Frost. If you're unconfident about your reaction time, you can pretty much just stealth every time after you space, and there'll be like a very small chance that he'll use that right after you come out of stealth and you won't have your space up, so normally you can just do it like that and it's completely fine. However, if you do have lower ping or are more confident in your reaction time, I would suggest saving the stealth until after he casts it, because it does open up this tiny window for you to get punished. There I get hit by a pillar. That was completely dodgeable. I just messed up my movement. I probably panicked a little bit because he was a little bit closer, so I mean, you can afford to get hit by like 1 or 2 pillar throws, but again, I could have probably just spaced there if I was worried about it. Jumps on you, space away, you can. There's the nice easy stealth. If you're ready for it too, he usually will use it, it seems like, after he jumps on you, so if you're ready for it too, it makes it so much easier. But again, pretty much you can just space away from this move, and then either shoot him with your space bonus or just focus on casting. There you go again. Stealth to dodge that super stupid one-shot move, and dodging the pillar with movement. Again, that's like really the vast majority of this fight. If you learn how to dodge his like one-shot waves across move with his stealth, and you learn how to dodge the pillars with movement, you're good to go. Like, this fight becomes super easy. There, I wasted my stealth on something that wasn't his waves of frost, but I did have my space up after, so it's not the biggest of deals. And he's dead. Obviously, if you're a little bit lower level, this will just take longer as you'll be doing less damage, but you still don't have to take any damage at all. Anyways, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If it helped you, make sure you do all the stuff you do to YouTube videos, and I will see you in the next one.